Hey, good morning, everybody. It's Monday. Actually, about a week from today, I will be heading out to Rudders in West York to make my departure. It's pretty early Monday morning. I got a low battery thing here. I don't know if you can see that on my camera or not, but hopefully I get this video in before the battery dies. Kind of a crazy, tough day for me already. It's early Monday. I apologize. I didn't leave any videos yesterday. I wanted to bring my kids up, and time has been so short, but I needed to come see my mom up in Massachusetts for a lot of reasons. Bring the kids up to see her. I needed to give her a hug and a kiss. I know she doesn't quite understand what I'm doing, and I'm going to try to get through this emotionally, without a lot of emotion, although if you know me, that's difficult. My mom, I intended to come out this morning and pay tribute to my mom, and I'm still going to, because certainly she deserves it. She's been my hero for a long time, and I did tell her that several times, but sometimes we don't remember things when we get caught up in other ways and so forth. But one of one of the most fun things I do is take drives with my kids. When you got a couple kids in the car, they're trapped. You're not dealing with electronics. You can talk about a lot of things, and I just always have been really open and close with my kids. Music's a big deal, and yesterday was just another one of those drives. We hit a little bit of traffic, but all in all, it's a pretty great ride up and spend time with them. They're always amazing with their grandmom. My daughter is just patient as can be, and loves her grandmother to death. They usually sleep together, and my son usually sleeps with me in the other room. He's really good with her too, except he's got his ADD. He doesn't really have ADD, but he's a young 8-year-old or 9-year-old now, and being locked up in an apartment for any 9-year-old boy will be enough to drive you batty. So I usually have to make sure I entertain him. And quite frankly, I'm just a big boy, and I get a little batty in there myself. So one of the funny things, not funny things, is I had I'm coming to reconcile a lot this last week and a half. Yesterday morning with some really cool stuff. I think you'll see on the site here soon. I don't know how to make this camera work better, but anyway, and I spent that in the morning, and came to peace with a few other folks in my life, and headed on up here. And I talked yesterday about texting, and yesterday once again, people communicating through text instead of picking up a phone and calling, and you get into this kind of text war and battle, and all it does is just exasperate everybody. So one of the things I've always done with my kids, I really enjoy the time I spend with them, and I spend a lot of time with them, is watching them with others. Some of my greatest joy is when I sit back and I watch them relate with their mom. I had an ex that I was very close with, and when I watched them relate with her, when I watched them relate with their grandmother, it's some of my biggest joys, because I know how much I love those kids, and how special they are, and I see them making other people around them happy and smiling, and that brings me joy. So when I come up here to Massachusetts, a lot of times I have to go out and run errands. My mom's 83 years old, and I usually end up running to the store to pick up medicine or toiletries or groceries or something. And sometimes if I'm a little wired, I don't sleep a lot. Most of you that know me know, for some reason I live on about 2 to 3 hours sleep. I'm not sure how I do it and why I do it, but it just is what it is. So I get a little crazy here sometimes, and I'll head out to just socialize or unwind and do what I got to do. Well, last night was one of those nights. I was a little exasperated from the texting, and I went out to a local restaurant, maybe see if the kitchen was open, watch a Yankees-Red Sox game, and maybe have a beer. I got there, and the kitchen was closed. The game was on, and I found out one of the toughest things. I love to watch sports, but how do you watch a game when you really hope both teams don't win? I mean, you can't root for a 28-inning 0-0 tie, but that's kind of how I feel about a Yankee-Red Sox game. Does me enough joy just when either one loses, so unfortunately in that game somebody has to win. Anyway, well, one of the things was, as we were wrapping up, there were a couple of bartenders, and I kind of told them about what I did. I'm kind of my own hype machine. I carry my business cards with me and ask folks, tell them what I'm doing, and sometimes it's received really well, sometimes it's received with some indifference. Well, the bartender said, hey, you should go tell them there was a group of her friends, or a group of 6, 7 women there last night. And I went over and told them, and just like everything else so far, the reaction has been almost identical to the world. 3 or 4 of them, maybe 3, really seemed interested in what I had to do. They signed up and friended my Facebook right away. Another one or two couldn't have the slightest interest. They weren't there to hear about my journey or anything like that, and I certainly understand that. And I think another one or two, they were interested, but didn't quite understand what it is I was doing or why I was doing it. And again, I wasn't there to kind of interrupt their night, so I don't know if they ever got the hows and whys and things like that. So anyway, I took a picture. They wanted me to take a picture. I'll post that to my site. I do thank those folks for listening and for following, and that's all I ask, is for people to try to understand what I'm doing. That kind of brings me back around to why I came up here and this morning. So to those that don't know, I if you follow my website and follow all the way back to the first day that started, you'll find out a little bit about my childhood and my background. And I don't have a lot of people that are close to me. I don't let a lot of people close to me, but family is everything to me. So my mom and my brother and my kid's mom and my immediate my children, my immediate little group of friends is all I really care about, what they think in the world. I don't want people to hate or be jaded or negative, but I do ask for them to try to understand. But sometimes the people closest to you are the ones that have the hardest time understanding. So before I go any further, let me make this real clear to anybody that's listening, and this is directed to my mom, who isn't listening and won't be listening. And I've had this conversation with her, and I had it again this morning, but this woman is my hero, okay? If you know us, you know that we battle when we talk. We have the hardest time having a conversation, and I'll touch on a little bit about this morning, but this woman is my hero, okay? She lost a son, which I couldn't even imagine losing a child. She was probably 41 or so when she did. She lost a husband 3 years later. To the best of my knowledge, she never went on a date after that. She basically dedicated her life to her kids. She never made 6 figures. She got stressed relatively easily. I don't mean this in a derogatory manner at all. She struggled as a kid. She was, I believe, orphaned and had a twin sister, and that got split up, and I don't even know her childhood background. Some of what I'm doing is trying to reconcile some things I didn't reconcile as a youth, and I don't even know what she's had to deal with and try to reconcile. I know there are people that they say my aunts or uncles, but I don't know if they're legitimate birth or adopted or whatever. So, she went through orphanages back in the day. She went through a whole lot. She made it through school, and she got a career, and she had a family, and she went through an awful lot. I don't know about the relationship between her and my dad. I was a little too young, and as I said, I do know that he wasn't the best of folks, and I don't know what it's like to have to live with somebody who isn't the best person in the world to you. I think that your home is where your loved ones are, and it should be a safe haven, not a place of angst and anxiety and trouble. So she went through just an amazing amount as a woman, and yet at the end of the day, she raised 2 kids that aren't perfect, but were pretty good. Nobody turned to crime or drugs or beating on people or anything like that. She just and maybe that's partially, honestly, I've learned part of my parenting isn't to put the fear of God in them and physical punishment, but the fear of disappointing my mother was everything to me. And I see that now with my kids. I don't know that I try to do it that way, but if my kids think they disappointed me, they are tormented. And I wish it wasn't like that. I wish they just understood that they're kids. But it's the craziest thing. If my daughter does something, even if it's something simple, like, hey, could you put that in the trash? She feels like she let me down, and she kind of goes into a little shell for a little while. She's got grown up, but that was her as a child. Even my son now, I know he put some pressure on himself in Little League and stuff. He's a great athlete, but I think he's so worried about impressing me, and I don't know why. And I'm trying to learn to be a better parent that way. But, my mom has so much to be proud of. I talked yesterday about my friend Wayne, or 2 days ago about my friend Wayne and success. And to me, success isn't about money, and it's not about accomplishments and deeds and ownership. It's simply about how those closest to you feel about you. And I know that to those that know my mom, love her dearly, and that includes myself and my kids. And I know I tell her, she's one of these people that hears it a lot, but sometimes I don't know if she hears it, even though I'm telling her that. So, Mom, if you do decide to listen to this, you are my hero, and I love you so much. And I can't imagine having done and gone through the things you did and come out as strong as you are. So, obviously, one of my biggest fears and why I had to get up here was to, let her know how I feel about her, and hopefully she hears this or somebody lets her know how, because I think she needs to hear it from an outside source. I can tell her right to her face, and I don't think it registers, but sometimes when you can process and not be close to the situation, things click a little differently. So one of the reasons I'm up here is that my kids make sure they see their grandmom. I see her, she's 83. I hope she lives another 83 years, and so forth. And I wanted to say those things. I can go on and on. At the same time, this morning was tough because she was up and she wants to express herself, and one of the problems with my mom and I has been we can't even have a civil conversation. I wish I could explain why. It's just always been that way, and I get frustrated pretty easily with it. And when people are trying to tell you what they said, and it happened this morning again, and I tried to explain to her, Mom, here's how I heard you. We all want to argue what we said. We do. It doesn't really matter what we say if the other person hears it differently. It's what they perceive. If I walk up to her and say, Ma, your hair looks great today, and I mean it as a genuine compliment, if somehow she thinks I'm being snarky and making fun of her hair, then my compliment didn't mean a whole lot. And that, in a nutshell, is our whole conversation and all our conversations. You can't find a deeper love than me and my mom, but yet sometimes simple conversations are just difficult. And that started this morning, where she wanted to express, Jim, you're going to be leaving your kids for quite a while. And she's not the only one. It's other people closest to me, and some other folks have worried about it. And of course I get a little bit taken aback by that. And I try to base my life on logic, and I hate hypocrisy. And as I kind of said to her, when I got transferred to Indiana for 5 months without the kids, but was making $100,000 a year, nobody seemed to care that I was away for 5 months. It wasn't about the kids then, right? And when I got transferred to Charlotte and was making good money and away from the kids for 4 months, nobody seemed to care then because I was making money. But when you do something crazy that people can't comprehend, like walk off a job and leave everything behind for my kids, people don't see it that way. And I'm not asking them to see it that way. I'm not at all. I'm not judging them for not seeing it. I just want them to understand. And when it hurts me is when the people closest to me, to those that know me and my kids, I'm no perfect dad, but me and my kids have an amazing, amazing relationship. I treat them like little adults, and maybe that's the wrong thing to do, but you know what? My kids are going to miss me. I'm sure in some small manner they understand. They're not quite sure why I'm doing what I'm doing, but in another way, they really do get what I'm doing. They're supportive, and, it kind of is upsetting when people want to tell you, what are you doing to your kids? When, again, these are these people that want to focus on the negative, when they can't see what I'm doing for my kids. Okay, again, what a great gift can I give my kids at the end of this term, 18 months from now, if I can say, guys, here's what Dad learned along the way. What life lessons, what friendships may I develop, what business opportunities. When I write the book, who knows what happens with that? And yet, people in society can only seem to focus on the negative. That's okay. I'm not doing this for them. If you follow me, you know why I'm doing this. I'm doing this for my children. I'm doing this for me. I hope that bigger things come of it, but at the end of the day, that's where we're at. So that wasn't just the conversation this morning, was more of, I don't understand and kind of this. But to her credit, when I first told her about this, I expected an amazing amount of negativity, and I didn't get it. Okay, she was very supportive, and I'm running out of time here, so I gotta wrap this up, I think. Very supportive, and even today, despite not understanding, it wasn't a brutal conversation. She really wants to understand. She really wants to, and sometimes she just needs me to kind of point it out to her. And as I said to her today, Mom, have you watched any of my videos whatsoever? She hates technology, it intimidates her, I get that. But how in the world could you possibly try to fathom or understand what and why I'm doing it if you haven't? I've been pretty much pouring my heart out there day after day after day about different topics. If you want to know what I'm doing, go ahead and follow. So I got to wrap this up here. Mom, you're my hero. I love you so much. I don't necessarily expect you to understand. I know you're worried about me. I know you're worried about the kids. But just trust in me. You've done an amazing job with me. Maybe be proud of who I am. I love you guys. Carrie, Grace, Landon, Mom. I love you guys. Thanks for listening. Have a great day, everybody.